Am I the a-hole for splitting with my wife after she aborted our baby due to things a psychic said? I, 34M, have been married to my wife for 8 years. We have a 6-year-old together. My wife was also pregnant and very spiritual. I'm not very knowledgeable on the things she enjoys because I grew up strictly religious, but if it's fun to her, I never minded as long as I wasn't involved. When my wife was pregnant with our first child, she went to see a psychic to get a reading on our baby. The psychic predicted correctly it'd be a boy, with blonde hair, which isn't hard to tell because my wife has blonde hair. She also got a reading on herself a year before she met me, and the psychic said she would find the love of her life soon. Basically, my wife went this time for our second child, and the psychic freaked out and said this baby would grow up to do horrible things and hurt many people, living a life of crime and cause blood to drip of the innocent. Some real horror movie crap. My wife believed her and went and made an appointment for an abortion without notifying me. When she told me she had booked the appointment, I tried to talk her out of it, which she agreed, then went and had it secretly done with her sister. Basically, I packed up myself and left to go stay with my mother. I told her we were through, and I'd be back for my son, but I didn't want to speak to her besides that. I lost a child we tried for months to conceive over a psychic reading. My wife said I was leaving her at a time she needed me the most, and how horrible of a person I was because it was her body and her choice. She then accused me of abandoning my family because of the control I was lacking over her body. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for taking away some of my son's privileges because he deliberately ate food he's allergic to? So, I have 4 kids, the oldest a daughter, 19, and 3 sons, 15, 13, and 12. While my other kids are normal when it comes to food, my 13-year-old has 2 of the hardest to deal with allergies of all time, eggs and wheat. Luckily his symptoms are and always have been on the milder end, but he still has bad reactions when he eats these foods. On a good day he'll have headaches and just feel sick, on bad days he'll straight up puke. Because of this I do try to avoid these foods, but because eggs and wheat are in just about everything. I already struggle with expenses as it is, with trying to help pay for my daughter's college and feeding my other kids. I usually have to end up feeding him differently than the others. For example, his sandwiches are without bread/eggs, the others get dessert while he doesn't due to eggs and wheat being in most desserts. They have more cereals and snacks to choose from because he can only eat wheat-free varieties, etc. I understand it's probably difficult for him watching his siblings snack on all types of different foods while he's relegated to specific things, but I try to balance it out by providing a lot of fruit, milk, juices, and wheat-free, egg-free alternatives when I can afford them. The other day when I came home from work, I noticed he was having a hard time keeping down whatever it was he ate. He tried to hide it from me, but it was bad enough to where I called him over and asked him what was wrong. He was a bit cagey but finally admitted he'd eaten a frozen pizza that was meant for his brothers. I gave him a scolding and told him he was denied his phone and computer for 3 days. My son was of course irritated. He said he was just hungry, it wasn't that big of a deal, etc. But I don't want him to get used to eating those foods. It's possible he could have had an emergency situation and I wouldn't have been around to help him. But when my wife came home from work and I told her the situation, she didn't agree with my punishment and thought it was too severe. I'm curious to get a wider range of opinions now. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for telling my wife off after getting our daughter to cut her hair off, even after being told not to? My wife is currently battling cancer, and one of the things she told me she's struggling with the most was losing her hair. She's been given a near 100% chance of survival since we caught it early, but the chemotherapy has destroyed her hair anyway, and she had to shave what was left of it off a few weeks ago. Not long after that, she suggested we attempt to get our 17-year-old daughter, Anna, to do so as well. Anna has very long hair that she puts a lot of care into, so I felt it was appropriate to ask her in private if she wanted to or would be willing to do such a thing. She told me that she didn't want to cut her hair, and I figured that was the end of that. However, yesterday they came home from a girls' shopping trip, something they do every so often, and Anna had a buzzed haircut. That struck me as odd after what she'd said, so after dinner I talked to her, and she told me that my wife had said she would never forgive Anna if she didn't show her support by buzzing her head. I asked her if she was happy about it, and she said that she wasn't. When I went to bed, I brought it up with my wife, and she said it was Anna's choice to or not. I just told her how I'd see the situation. I told her off, saying she needed to respect Anna's personal choices and that a 17-year-old girl being against shaving her head wasn't exactly out of the ordinary. However, my wife simply said it was to show support for her. I've been sleeping on the couch since. I love my wife, and I understand that she's going through something traumatic. However, her attitude comes off as very manipulative to me, and that's not behavior I feel I can personally accept. I'm not sure if I can move past this to continue the relationship. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my boyfriend because of the way he was grieving my miscarriage? I had a miscarriage last week. It was very early in the pregnancy. It happened only 2 weeks after finding out I was pregnant. I wasn't very shaken by it as I didn't really want a baby, and miscarriages are quite common that early. I was a little relieved, to be honest. After finding out, my boyfriend accused me of lying and having an abortion. He broke down crying, yelling at me. He said I unalived his baby because I didn't want it, and he doesn't believe that it was a miscarriage. I'm not the kind of person who just accepts their partner berating them. I told him to leave and not come back. Since then, our friends and my family called me cruel for breaking up with him and are defending him, saying he was just grieving and I'm a terrible person for not standing by his side in hard times like this. But he literally accused me of lying to him and having an abortion in secret. How is grief an excuse for that? Am I the a-hole? Edit for context. I'm on birth control pills, but I was sick a little while back and the antibiotic treatment caused some stomach issues. So, just to be safe, we took out the condoms that have been in the back of the drawer for some time now. My guess is that they were expired even though the packaging said they were good for another year.
Am I the a-hole for thinking my husband was sexualizing our daughter? My husband and I have a daughter who is 13. I was essayed from the time I was 12, up until he accidentally got me pregnant at 15, by my own father, and I went to live with my aunt. I have a lot of unresolved trauma, but because of this trauma I was very on top of changing my daughter. My husband rarely changed a diaper, gave her baths, was weary about leaving them alone together even though my husband never gave me a reason to. I stole a lot from my husband, which is when I agreed to finally go to therapy about 9 years ago. I was in it for a few years. A few days ago, my daughter asked my husband and I if she could get some more adult underwear. She said the girls in the locker room were looking at her weird for her childish underwear. I said no, but my husband thought maybe it was time for her to upgrade her wardrobe. This triggered me, and when my daughter left the room, I asked him why he thought that was okay to buy our daughter adult underwear and not to make decisions on our daughter's underwear, don't tell her she should wear more adult underwear, etc. He got upset and said she was in middle school now, and he didn't want her to be bullied, and that I couldn't start this again. He then said I needed to stop thinking of him as this monster because he's her father and not my dad, and that if these episodes were going to start up again, I needed to go back to therapy. I feel as though, him knowing my trauma, he shouldn't get so angry and demand me to go back to therapy. I have every right to be cautious. Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for refusing to weigh myself in front of my partner? Backstory: I, 40F, and fiancé, 38M, have broken up over this. Need some impartial opinions if I am an a-hole. I am very insecure about my weight and put on over 10 kilograms through COVID, work stress, and grief. I received an ultimatum in July from my fiancé that if I didn't lose 4 kilograms by my birthday, yesterday, the wedding at the end of this year is off, and demanded to know what my starting weight was. I was so distressed and sad by this at the time of request that I couldn't even engage with him for a week. I even saw a psychologist to help me process it. I eventually cracked and told him my weight, 76 kilograms. We don't live together. I practically starve myself and hit the gym and lose 5 kilograms in about 5 weeks. Yesterday was my birthday, the weigh-in day. He came over to visit. First thing in the morning, I want to get this over with, still upset by the whole experience, and I stood on the scale in my pajamas with my weight coming in at just over 70 kilograms, which he looks at and verbalizes. He weighs himself, then asks me to come back and re-weigh myself in front of him without any clothes on. I refuse. My reasoning was that I already felt humiliated and I was mentally only prepared to do it once, which in my mind I did. He thinks I'm the a-hole because I refused to do something that was important to him. I think he's the a-hole for making me go through this experience. I texted a single trusted friend who gave me some reassuring words, essentially that I'm not crazy and this isn't my fault, which I shared with him, not saying who the friend was. He thinks that is not impartial and I'm bad-mouthing him. We broke up over my refusal to reweigh myself in front of him without clothes on, not that I didn't lose the weight. I know people who are impartial. The internet. Am I being unreasonable or the a-hole in not doing something that was important to him? Did I deserve to have him dump me? I feel like I still have feelings for him.
Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's girlfriend about his past dating history which led to their breakup? I, 19F, told my brother's 26M girlfriend, 26F, about his past dating history which led to her breaking off the relationship. I'm going to call my brother Parker and his ex-girlfriend Julie so I don't confuse anyone. My brother and I were both raised by a single dad. Mom passed away when I was young. To put it plainly, Dad is a massive sexist pig, and I could not wait to leave the family house at 18. Since I can remember, he always shared misogynistic views about women and my brother believed in them. The most repeated BS Dad would repeat is that men are allowed to sleep around and women are not. Parker believes the same, and throughout his college years, he dated and broke up with so many women, treated them horribly, purposely led them on only to break up with them, and he would boast about it to us. Parker met Julie on a night out 6 months ago. Up until recently, I didn't know much about her, mainly because I avoid speaking to both my brother and Dad as much as I can. When I first met Julie at a family function, I noticed Parker acted completely different around her. A complete angel. You honestly would not believe he's a sexist pig like my dad. Acts like such a gentleman, believes he's the nice guy, and is basically the ideal boyfriend. Last week, I overheard Parker and Dad speaking about Julie. Parker was boasting that Julie is a virgin, and he was openly talking about their intimate life and how they do other stuff apart from traditional fun time, as she wants to wait until she feels like she's in a committed and meaningful relationship. Dad made a comment along the lines of "no man wants land that's been conquered by other men," and they started laughing about it. I met Julie again over the weekend, and we started talking about life and how my studies are going. I'm in college and live on campus, and we started connecting as I realized she went to the same college. We then got onto the topic of my brother, and she said, "Wow, I got really lucky with him, didn't I?" I didn't say anything and awkwardly laughed. She then says, "I'm surprised I'm his first girlfriend. He must have dated others, right?" I couldn't help but feel on the inside she's asking me this because she herself is doubtful about my brother, so I told her the honest truth about all the girls he dated and how badly he treated them. Surprisingly, she didn't make much of a reaction and just thanked me. Next day, I find out she broke up with him and blocked him on everything, and he can't reach her at all. Parker asked me what I said to her as he saw her talking to me, and I said the truth about his past. He called me every insulting name you can think of, and Dad pretty much agrees with him. Suddenly, it feels like my entire family have turned their back on me, insulting me and saying it's not my business to get involved in someone else's relationship. This is all a shock to me, and considering it's summer break and my studies are over, I'm staying with family at the moment until college resumes and I can live on campus again. I'm being pressured to say sorry to Parker and admit that I was the a-hole. Did I go too far and step out of place?